Number 10, Model 13, the Hulkbuster armor. Starting with an absolute classic, the Hulkbuster armor has been reworked throughout the years many times, those models being Model 36 and 52. However, let's focus on the first iteration for today. Rather than a full suit of armor like most other suits Tony has created, the Hulkbuster armor is actually an add-on to the modular armor that was introduced in 1994's Iron Man number 300. Basically, this armor had different add-ons used for a variety of situations, ranging from microsurgery equipment to the massive Hulkbuster. So, I guess kind of think of it as the Mr. Potato Head of Iron Man armor. This particular add-on was used when Hulk confronted Iron Man over the production of gamma bombs while partnered with Stain International, and you probably guessed it, but they did have a pretty big fight over it. Possessing these standard repulsors and unibeam that are incorporated in all base Iron Man suits, the Hulkbuster armor integrated a magno-hydraulic pseudo-musculature structure, which provided enhanced strength of what is assumed to be able to lift at least 175 tons. Sensors were also adapted to focus on detecting gamma radiation, and it had impact-resistant carbon composite plating and an anchoring system so he could withstand any hit that came his way. Although the modular armor appeared in Iron Man number 300, the Hulkbuster armor didn't appear until a few issues later in Iron Man number 304. But, I mean, we're all pretty familiar with this one, I assume, since it has already appeared on the big screen in Avengers Age of Ultron. So, let's move on to some stronger and maybe lesser known armors. Number 9, Model 57 3FB. Known officially as the Fin Fang Foom Buster, this suit was designed by Tony alongside Stark Unlimited as a countermeasure against his longtime enemy, Fin Fang Foom. Before we dive more into this design, I do just want to say this one is probably my favorite suit design but I probably am a little bit biased considering I grew up on Gundam and Power Rangers, so anytime I see a blocky looking behemoth of a robot, I am instantly in love. But anyways, let's not dive too far into this tangent. Let's get back to the 3FB. Deployed by Stark to intercept Triple F, that is what I'm calling Fin Fang Foom because my god, that is a real mouthful, when he attacked Manhattan. This suit was deployed as a set of autopiloted air repulsor cannons, and in true Megazord fashion, they combined together to create the 20-story tall suit powerful enough to keep Triple F at bay. Alongside the standard Iron Man suit capabilities, this suit can emit electrical discharges from the palms of its gauntlets. Now, unfortunately, Triple F was able to land a critical hit on this armor, forcing Tony to eject from it and continue the fight in the Model 56 armor, and since then we haven't seen much of it. If you want to see the suit in action for yourself, check it out in 2018's Tony Stark Iron Man number 1. Number 8, Model 22 Thor Buster. Similar to Batman and his contingency plan for the Justice League, it appears that Tony is ready to fight the other members of the Avengers if he has to, although I really doubt he wants to because some of them are literal gods. In this case, Thor gave Tony an Asgardian crystal with the hopes of creating a safer and cleaner power source for Earth. But after an Odin Force-powered and angry Thor begins to rampage because some Asgardian worshippers were killed, Tony is kind of forced to design a suit of armor powered by the crystal that is powerful enough to stop the almighty god of thunder. With a similar design to the Destroyer armor, this suit utilizes the mystical Asgardian energy for everything from flight to life support, and it's basically invulnerable with Thor being the only thing able to damage it. Unfortunately, it did not stick around for too long though, because once Thor got tired of fighting with Tony, he just straight up ripped the suit in half, and thankfully Tony wasn't in it anymore as he had already ejected himself, knowing this was a fight he could probably not win. Now, I highly recommend you check this fight out for yourself because it is really well done, so head on over to 2003's Iron Man Volume 3 number 64 and let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Coming in at number 7, we have Iron Lad's armor. Stepping away from Tony Stark for a hot second, let us take a look at the armor Nathaniel Richards wears as Iron Lad. This neurokinetic suit was actually given to him by Kang the Conqueror, his future self, and Nate decided that instead of following in his own footsteps, he would travel to the past and enlist the help of the Avengers. However, they had already been disbanded. After downloading Vision's operating system and the Avengers failsafe program into his suit, he took up the guise of Iron Lad with plans to assemble the Young Avengers. While wearing this armor, Nate is able to lift 10 tons, create temporal divergences allowing him to travel through time, fire concussive blasts from his fingertips, and fly. This suit is also connected directly to his thoughts and emotions, so it's able to manifest and transform into whatever he's thinking. For example, say if someone grabbed him and he felt scared, the suit might create some spikes to get the attacker away. During this fight with Kang the Conqueror, Nate actually removes the armor to prevent himself from being tracked, and thanks to the Vision operating system, it becomes fully sentient, allowing Nate to return to his own timeline knowing that there will be someone or something around to protect the people as part of the Young Avengers. First appearing in 2005's Young Avengers number 1, why not give this whole storyline a read for yourself? Number 6, Model number 9. Now this one doesn't really get a fancy title like the other ones for some reason, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. After just one look at it, you're probably really confused why I put it on this list today, and rightly so, because it is one of Tony's earliest models. Tony finished this model just before the first Armor Wars and was very reluctant to use it due to its high power capabilities. However, he was later forced to use it to stop firepower after he was previously defeated in his other suits, and needless to say, he kinda got a taste for it because he continued to work as Iron Man in this suit for quite some time. Equipped with a battle computer that can track up to 60 enemies at once, a universal translator, an energy shield, and so much more, this suit is really not one you want to mess with. However, that's not why I thought it should be mentioned today. This suit is unique because at one point it actually fused with the Sword of Legend, Excalibur, bestowing Tony with magical powers along with his already incredibly advanced technology. And now with a badass new look, this suit also made him invulnerable, and this suit allowed Tony to defeat an extra-dimensional eye monster before reverting back to its original form. It sucks that this form didn't last longer, but hey, I guess if you make Iron Man invincible for too long, his ego might get bigger, and I don't think anyone would be able to handle that. The Model Number 9 suit first appears in 1988's Iron Man number 231, but if you're only interested in seeing it fused with Excalibur, don't worry, I got you. Check out Iron Man number 249 and 250. Number 5, we have Model 50 Endocyme Armor. Following the inversion spell that flipped his moral axis, Tony designed the Endocyme suit, a symbiotic suit made completely of a liquid smart metal that hardens when in contact with his body. Based off the symbiote's biology, this suit is basically meant to be on his person at all times, and it can even be controlled remotely, going as far as to take a humanoid form that is able to take commands through a psionic link. The abilities of the suit are absolutely insane. It's capable of absorbing energy, sustaining electrical currents like a never-ending taser, and even has the ability to increase its size into a makeshift Hulkbuster style suit. Fans have seen this armor go up against the likes of Storm and Spectre and come out on top with little to no damage taken. Unfortunately, or thankfully, I guess I'm not really sure at this point, it was destroyed during the Secret War and nobody has seen anything close to it ever since. Making a small cameo in 2014's Avengers Volume 5, number 32, we are fully introduced to this beast of a suit in 2015's Superior Iron Man number 1, so go take a look at it for yourself. Coming in at number 4, we have Model 51 Model Prime Armor. With the prototype first appearing in 2015's Contest of Champions number 1, this suit's full version came to life in the Invincible Iron Man Volume 3 number 1, and man, it is a pretty dang good suit. It basically combines all the aspects of Tony's other suits, making it adaptable to any task at hand. Even though it was designed solely because Tony felt threatened by Riri Williams, the 15-year-old MIT student who was able to reverse engineer some of his tech, it's a good thing it came to be because it has been very useful. Comprised of small hexagonal scales, this suit features upgraded versions of the standard Iron Man armor weaponry such as repulsor blasters that can cut through enemies with phasing abilities, and 3 unibeams on his chest, effectively making it a tri-beam. This suit also has some new tricks up its sleeves, such as a new onboard cloaking system. It can work autonomously if the pilot is injured, and most impressively, this suit can change shape at a moment's notice into anything from a sword to a complete shift into a Hulkbuster-like suit. It's also immune to a number of attacks, namely sonic attacks and EMPs, and can take a serious beating from the likes of Captain Marvel and so many more. There has also been another character in the Marvel Universe who actually donned this specific suit for a bit, but you know what, I'll let you find out who it was for yourself. Number 3, Model 37, Bleeding Edge Armor. Dubbed the next step after Extremis by Tony himself, this suit was created while he was trying to reinvent himself and his armor. Stark worked with Reed Richards to create this after getting away from running S.H.I.E.L.D. and being the head of the world. This suit existed inside of Tony Stark's body, literally forming around him thanks to incredibly powerful nanotech, and I know as unrealistic as a set of armor made out of nanotech may seem, the Bleeding Edge armor is arguably one of the best suits that Tony Stark has ever worn. Not only does it bring the benefits of an improved Extremis to the table, the nanotech that powers it basically ensures that Iron Man is ready to fight whenever and wherever. By creating a second layer of artificial muscle over to Stark's body, the armor is capable of healing itself and making it effectively invulnerable. And that, coupled with all his normal weaponry alongside a new energy blade and deflector shields, makes you wonder if it could get any better than this. It also happens to be one of Stark's most popular suits, becoming the hero's default look for several years, as well as the main inspiration for Tony's suit in Iron Man 3. Now, considering how quickly Iron Man can switch out of suits, 3 years with a single set of armor is pretty impressive, and that's why it's so high on this list today. Check it out in action for yourself in 2010's Invincible Iron Man Volume 2, number 25. Coming in at number 2, we have Model 61 God Killer Armor Mark II. Based on the original God Killer armor created by the Aspirant many eons earlier, Tony created this celestial-sized armor and kept it hitting. having it orbit Mars in case one day a threat was big enough to warrant using it. Powered by 8 nuclear reactors, this suit is pretty basic when it comes to weaponry, only possessing repulsor blasters. However, its speed and strength make up for it, being able to travel between Earth and Mars in a matter of minutes, and able to lift celestial beings off the ground. When the Dark Celestials came to attack Earth in 2018's Avengers Volume 8 number 5, Tony felt it was finally time and deployed this behemoth of a machine. Allowing him to hold his own against the Dark Celestials for a short period of time, it ended up being no match for the almighty beings after Callus the Void was able to rip off its left arm. Hoping that taking one out would cause others to retreat, Tony attempted to launch the suit into space to blow it up. However, he was stopped by an army of dead Celestials reanimated by the Horde. With no other option, Tony ejected himself from the suit and caused it to self-destruct. Even though this armor only lasted 2 issues, its sheer power and overall manufacturing cost of over $4 billion is what landed it so high on today's list. And finally, number 1, we have Model 63 Godbuster. Originating from The Escape, a virtual reality world created by Tony that allowed his mind to become unfettered from the restraints of the human brain, giving him the inspiration and knowledge he needed to create the only thing capable of destroying Motherboard, the Godbuster armor. Though little is known about the suit's full capabilities, Tony's brother Arno deemed it to be his masterpiece, referring to it as the ultimate weapon. And even Ironheart couldn't get a full read on its power level, stating that the armor radiated more power than anything she had ever seen before. After successfully taking down the villain, Tony realized this suit was far too powerful to remain in the real world and made the decision to fly the suit back into the factory it was created in and caused it to self-destruct, making the resources needed to recreate it and the suit completely destroyed and useless. Arno does eventually recreate a version of the suit that he wears as his own, but you know, I think we can talk about that another time, maybe in part 2? Who knows?
Number 10, the Arctic Armor. First appearing in Iron Man number 318 in July of 1995, the Arctic Armor was made to withstand the harsh temperatures and conditions of the Arctic. While mainly used by Tony so he could access his secret Arctic bunker, the suit could be used in other cold weather situations, like if he had to fight an Arctic-based villain. Being in Canada, I would absolutely find a use for this suit. For example, I could use it to walk to work without the air hurting my face. Number 9, Hydro Armor. We know that the Iron Man armors all have some underwater capabilities. We saw it in the first Avengers movie, but the Hydro Armor can work at underwater depths of up to 3 miles down, surviving the crazy water pressure that comes with being deep in the sea. I'm gonna be honest, this couldn't be me. The ocean makes me wet my tidy whities, but I guess when you've got like a tri-beam style unibeam, mini torpedoes, electrical field generators, and an octopus style black ink thingy, you are a bit more safe. Number 8, High Gravity Armor. I like this one. Even if its design is goofy, it's something I think would actually need to be taken into account. This suit was made to help its wearer withstand the increased gravity conditions of hyperspace travel, helping the body keep blood in the limbs, not just the torso, and those huge feet helped with moving around. The suit helped Tony withstand 50 Gs, but his actual limits haven't really been explicitly mentioned. It didn't stop Tony from passing out from G-Lock though, and it definitely didn't stop him from puking, but it cleaned him up and disinfected him, just like a good friend after a party. Number 7, Cold Iron Armor. Everything in the War of the Realms related stories is just so metal. The Cold Iron Armor first appeared in Iron Man Volume 5, number 24 back in 2014, and came to be when Tony was on a stealth mission in the Dark Elf homeworld of Svartalfheim. The armor itself is actually worn over top of another suit, and it's completely made of iron. Iron is actually a metal that is lethal for Dark Elves, so it's kind of weird that Iron Man wasn't the first one called, but this is actually an Iron Man armor. Like, actually iron. Its weapons include a fireable iron hook, a cloud of iron nails, and these super sweet iron claws on each arm. Just look at this thing. Number 6, God Killer Armor Mark II. Bet you didn't know that Tony Stark had a celestial-sized suit of armor powered by 8 nuclear reactors that is just casually orbiting Mars. Or, I guess if you read Avengers Volume 8, number 5, you would. This armor entered the fray when the Dark Celestials attacked the Earth and battled alongside giant versions of She-Hulk, Thor, and Ghost Rider. While there are other versions of the Godkiller armor, this one is my favorite. And the fact that it was kept orbiting Mars just in case really feels like something Tony Stark would do. Number 5. Deep Space Armor. This is probably the one armor on this list that most people have heard of. This suit was created when Tony Stark took a vacation from Earth and went out into space with the Guardians of the Galaxy. The suit can use an autopilot in emergencies and even allows Tony to control suits hundreds of light years away back on Earth. It's a modular suit too, allowing for things like enhanced back thrusters and wrist-mounted explosive launchers. It even has an extension that allows for lunar landings. It can travel at warp and sub-warp speeds, which is useful for space travel. Just overall for space travel, this suit is the most useful of all the Iron Man armors. 4. The Ablative Armor. This armor was pretty unique. It consisted of tons and tons of little honeycomb-shaped tiles that are all held together by a force field. The idea was that the tiles would break on impact, better absorbing impacts that a solid piece of armor was less useful for. Anytime a tile would be destroyed or fall out of the force field, it would be replaced by another tile, which is good for a suit of armor. These tiles could even separate from the armor itself and be used as projectiles or as countermeasures. Overall, it's just an armor with so many unique and useful capabilities, and I hope we see more of it. Hey you nerds! Before we get on to the top 3, I just wanted to say a quick thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying the video. If you are, why not hit us with a like and maybe subscribe? It really helps us out to continue giving you videos. Alright, moving on. Number 3, the Nano Iron Man Armor. Now this is a bit less of a traditional armor. When battling Fin Fang Foom, Tony initially used the giant Fin Fang Foom Buster armor, but when that failed, he instead shot a pod of thousands of Nano Iron Man armor microbots into the dragon thingy's blood. The bots were then remotely operated to investigate Fin Fang Foom and then fight his antibodies and travel to his brainstem, where the armors were used to destroy the control disk. Nanobots are a technology we're trying to develop in the real world to solve thousands of problems, mainly medical in nature. So this is an extremely useful armor. Number 2, Thor Buster Armor. Now most people know about the famous Hulkbuster suit thanks to the MCU, and just because it's awesome. But did you know Tony has made a Thor Buster armor as well? There are actually a few Asgardian-based Iron Man armors, and they are all extremely awesome and useful. But to me, an armor to counteract the God of Thunder directly seems the coolest. He used the armor to go toe-to-toe with the God of Thunder, who is already massively powerful. But Thor was actually boosted up by the power of the Odin Force at the time. The armor was able to manipulate Asgardian energies like the Odin Force, which served Tony well. He was even capable of stopping Mjolnir mid-fight. Unfortunately, Thor destroyed the suit's reactor, forcing Tony to eject. But if this armor could trade punches with Odin Force Thor, it would be extremely useful facing any Asgardian related threat. Number 1, the Virtual Armor. This suit is probably the most unique of all of Tony Stark's armors. It's also the most recent suit on this list. The virtual suit first debuted in Iron Man 2020 Volume 2, Number 5, when Tony Stark had his consciousness pulled out of his body to save his life, and it resulted in the Virtual Armor, which was made from the resources of the 13th floor, which is basically a virtual reality built of solid light. Look, it's hard to explain, okay? The virtual armor could allow Tony to create any weapon he can think of. It augmented his strength, it protects against weapons fire, and it's invisible by default, acting as almost a force field around Tony. It can separate to form a prison-like bubble. The suit even somehow still allows him to fly and protects him from the vacuum of space. I have no idea how it works. Like, at all. And it's the most comic booky thing I've ever heard of, but its almost limitless possible capabilities easily make it the most useful Iron Man suit.
Number 10, Iron Goblin. Iron Goblin was a version of Tony that was kind of combined with Green Goblin through being exposed to the Goblin serum in order to save his life. This saved him from the spider virus, but also made him insane like Norman Osborn. This version of Tony Stark ultimately decided to sacrifice himself for others, not wanting to completely lose his sanity, and as a means of making amends for all the bad that he had done in his life prior to becoming Iron Man. As Iron Goblin, he wielded the Ebony Blade, attempting to buy some time for the Resistance to escape from the Spider Army on Spider Island, which if you didn't know was all part of Battle World, Secret Wars, all that good stuff. Number 9, Old Iron Man. This version of Tony Stark is actually the original from the comics who died after it was revealed in the Crossing event that he was actually evil. Dun dun dun! This version of Tony was a sleeper agent for Kang the Conqueror, who had brainwashed him into basically becoming becoming evil and becoming a villain. Even the Avengers couldn't stand up to Iron Man alone here. They recruited a younger version of the hero from the past to join them in their fight against older Iron Man. Unfortunately, this only resulted in younger and less experienced Tony getting his butt whooped and nearly being killed by his older self. In the end, older Iron Man was defeated when he basically saw the light and decided to return to the side of good, sacrificing himself and also creating a chest plate before doing so in order to stabilize his younger self, who would then go on to take his place. That's a real thing that happened. The crossing. What a time. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list, if you want to learn about more awesome alternate versions of Iron Man, be sure to show us by giving this video a like. Give it a little thumbs up. And definitely do that because there's lots of alternate versions of Iron Man that I still haven't mentioned. I didn't think I was gonna be super into Iron Man and that I would have all these alternates on my mind that I wanted to talk about, but there's actually a lot that I still haven't talked about. A lot of great ones. A lot of lady Iron Mans as well that we haven't talked about. Iron Womans. Iron Womans? I don't know. Number 8. Superior Iron Man. While this is still Tony Stark from the main continuity, Stark also kind of erased this version of himself from his brain in order to... This is so complicated, I love it. While this is still Tony Stark from the main continuity, Stark also kind of erased this version of himself from his brain in order to protect important information from falling into the hands of Hammer's director, Norman Osborn, at the time during Dark Reign. So for that reason, I'm gonna count him, because he kind of erased this version of himself, even though it all happened in main continuity. Superior Iron Man, or evil Tony Stark, was created during the events of Axis, when heroes and villains had their alignments flipped. So heroes became villains and villains became heroes. It was a weird but overall fun time in terms of what the characters got up to. Tony managed to shield himself from having his alignment return to normal and, in secret, kept his alignment evil. This version of Tony had no moral code holding him back, and at one point almost successfully took over San Francisco with the creation of a phone app and a little bit of extremis. True story. Well, maybe a lot of extremis, because it went into the water supply. But still, I think it's impressive if you can be like, here's an app, it's free, now it's $100 a day! That's crazy. Sorry, $99.99. Because that's a more appeasing price to the eye. Did you know? Number 7. Iron Man 2.0. This was a name that Rhodey took up later on as a version of Iron Man who served the government, but Tony Stark's BFF James Rhodes actually took up the mantle of Iron Man way before that in the comics as well, back when he was known just as Iron Man. Of course, with this being an alternate list, I thought just calling him, you know, just Iron Man might be confusing, so I took the later editorial name that was used in the comics when he was Iron Man another time. Rhodey ended up taking over as Iron Man actually way back in the 80s in the comics, after Tony's alcoholism was getting in the way and making it difficult for him to act as a hero responsibly. And Rhodey actually stayed as Iron Man for quite some time, while Tony took time off to relax and recover. Rhodey was an impressive Iron Man, but would eventually be forced to give up the mantle due to headaches that he suffered as a side effect of the suit not being properly calibrated to his brain patterns. Which honestly, I feel like if you're taking over as Iron Man, that should probably be a step that happens. Like, it's kind of rude that Tony didn't think about that. These headaches made him overly aggressive and irritable, forcing Tony to reclaim the mantle once more, because it was too dangerous, but he'd be Iron Man again later, so yay! Number 6. Iron Man 2020. This version of Iron Man is the brother of Tony Stark and the legitimate child of Howard and Maria Stark, because as we'd later find out, Tony was adopted. But before that happened, they had Arno. Arno had to be hidden away for years because he was sick and in danger, but once that was somewhat resolved, it's kind of a long story, Tony ended up learning of his existence and reached out to meet his brother. Arno Stark is also known for his brilliant intellect like his brother. In fact, he has even claimed to be smarter than Tony in the past, which I don't know, but I personally think that it could be true. Arno successfully modified the Extremis virus, attempting to turn it into a cure-all, and at one point using it to increase the Hulk's intelligence dramatically. Arno was also convinced at one point while operating as Iron Man that the only way to ensure peace between AI and organic life forms was to seize control of both sides' minds. Fortunately, he was stopped in this pursuit by his brother, Tony Stark. And I think now he's just like living in some sort of simulation that Tony put him in to Yeah, just make him feel like a hero while he's like, I'm just gonna do this while we figure out how to not have you be around and be kind of evil. That would be good. Arno just thought he was doing what was best. I don't know what's wrong with that. Number 5. Dr. Anthony Stark. This version of Tony Stark only makes a brief appearance in the comics, having appeared less than a handful of times and making his first appearance in All New X-Men Annual Issue Number 1. He hails from the reality temporarily numbered 591. Not an official number just yet. Here Tony Stark has become Sorcerer Supreme of the entire galaxy in this alternate future of the year 2099. He discusses the blend and interchangeability of both science and magic. It seems as the years passed for this Tony, he only became even smarter, wiser, and more mystical. Neat. Number 4. MCU Iron Man. Iron Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was the one who managed to put a stop to Thanos once and for all. He created a gauntlet capable of handling and wielding the awesome power of the Infinity Stones, and was also the one to discover time travel. Well, to discover a version of time travel that actually worked. Banner was close, of course, but I don't think either he or Scott Lang would have gotten there in time without Tony Stark's breakthrough aha moment. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, Tony Stark is the main creator of Ultron. While this ended up overall being a bad move on his part as Ultron became a supervillain, the accomplishment of creating an AI that powerful and complex is still really impressive. And without Ultron, we'd never have gotten Vision. This version of the character, played by Robert Downey Jr., also really helped to skyrocket Iron Man's popularity in the comics and around the world. RIP MCU Iron Man. You will be missed. Number 3. Iron Lantern. I'm really happy that this is the amalgamated version of this name that we went with instead of Green Man, which is less exhilarating by comparison. Green Man. Iron Lantern is a hero who comes to us from the Amalgamverse, and unsurprisingly, he is a mashup of DC's Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, and Marvel's Iron Man, Tony Stark. His name is Harold Hal Stark, and he gets his powers from a suit he made using a battery that he found amidst the wreckage of an alien ship. I love amalgam characters. Number 2. Iron Hammer. Stark Odinson is the version of Tony and Thor who hails from Warp World. Warp World was created when Gamora folded the universe in half using the power of the Infinity Stones. She then sealed these blended souls within the Soul Stone. While everything would be set right, this version of the universe was still allowed to continue to exist and kind of made its own thing, which I'm happy about because Warp World is pretty cool. Iron Hammer has both the ingenuity and brilliant armor of Tony Stark, as well as the Asgardian strength, immortality, and hammer Mjolnir of Thor Odinson. Number 1. Infamous Iron Man. Controversial opinion possibly, but I think Victor Von Doom is the most powerful of all of the Iron Mans. Doom took up the mantle of Iron Man following the events of Civil War II, which saw Tony left in a coma as a result of a fight with Captain Marvel. Dr. Doom, after the events of Secret Wars, had been looking to turn over a new leaf, and had decided to ally himself with Tony Stark as such, which also meant fighting on his side during Civil War II. In his honor, Doom took up the mantle of infamous Iron Man and proved himself to be one of the most capable versions of the hero that we've ever seen. Honestly, I feel like Doom as any hero or villain would be so powerful. I just love Dr. Doom. I don't know, spoiler alert, I love Dr. Doom. You already knew that. When this happened, even the villains knew they needed to be on high alert, gathering to discuss an alliance as they assumed this would be the only way to protect themselves against infamous Iron Man, only to have Doom drop in on the meeting and make quick work of, well, pretty much all of them. Infamous Iron Man was great and honestly was too short-lived. Come back, infamous Iron Man, come back to us.